welcome to the Double Barrel Podcast. My name is Justin. This is my co-host Chris.
And on this podcast, we talk about all things firearms and alcohol. Today we'll be reviewing a firearm going over four major topics. We'll be going over reliability, versatility, shootability, and cost to see if this firearm might be the right choice for you in your future.
One thing on this podcast, we are very enthusiastic about safety. As you can see, there's no round in the chamber, no mag in the well, and you'd never want to actually go shooting and drinking at the same time. That's obviously not very safe, and anytime you drink, don't drive.
Absolutely. So kick back, grab a drink, and enjoy the show. Let's get into it. Justin, where are we at?
So right now we're actually reviewing the H&K45 Auto. It's a gun made by Heckler & Koch, released in 1994 as the big brother of the HK USP. Now this is one of yours, and as we all know, I'm not a huge fan of the 45, but as far as reliability on this thing, what do you think?
Rock solid. To complement your comment earlier, the USP is the military version of this firearm and the predecessor to this handgun as well. H&K is known for their extreme reliability and durability in all types of situations. I can honestly say that this gun lives up to that expectation. Never had a misfed round, never had a jam round, never had a double feed. Nothing. Everything that has gone down this gun or been fed has fired.
No, that's great. Now, how many rounds have we put down this thing? I mean,
probably say close to 500. I'm kind of erring on the conservative side. I'd probably say I've got about 5, maybe 6 down it right now.
yeah, I haven't put a lot down it because, as I said, I don't like 45 overly much. Great round, but I prefer the 9. What would you score this one on as far as reliability on this gun?
So when I look at reliability, I look at the firearm as, okay, if this is the only gun I have and I had to bet my life or the life of my family's on it, would I do it? And if I draw in a self-defense situation or a life survival situation, would this gun fire every time and do I trust it with my life? The answer is absolutely. I give it a 5 out of 5. There's no reason for me not to give it anything less because it has never done anything or shown anything less than a perfect score in that category.
I'll agree. I haven't shot as many rounds down this one as you have. I probably only put about a box down it, so about 50 rounds. But never had a misfire, never had a misfeed or a jam. It's worked perfectly every time, and we do take it. All of our guns go out in the dirt with us because that's where we shoot. So yeah, I'd also score this one a nice solid 5 out of 5 as far as reliability, because it is a very reliable gun, and that's kind of what H&K is known for.
I would agree with you.
It's what they do.
Oh yeah. In fact, I don't know any product that H&K makes that I've ever even heard a bad review or even a questionable review on their reliability. This firearm's no exception to that.
Oh, absolutely. As far as shootability, would you pick this up and teach somebody how to shoot with this one?
Might not be the very first gun I put in their hand. Obviously, the first gun you're ever going to put in someone's hand is going to be a 22. Then maybe migrate them up to a 9. Here's the thing, though. I feel like this is a very easy gun to use. I feel like it's a very manageable gun. And with it being a full-framed semi-automatic pistol, I really don't think someone with little knowledge and just barely learning how to shoot, if they're after a 45, I really think this actually would be a very, very good option for them.
Okay. I'll agree with that. One thing that I do like about the HK45 is because of the length of the barrel on it, it actually helps reduce some of the recoil from the HK45. You get a lot of the 45s that have much shorter barrels, and those are going to kick a lot harder. The HK45 doesn't really kick any more than a 9mm does.
No, and I think it's actually got a 4.5 inch. The other thing that I really, really like about this pistol that I feel gives it the ability for amateur, basically all level shooters to shoot comfortably, is I love the ergonomics on the grip here. Now, this particular firearm comes with 3 back straps that are all interchangeable here. The other 2 are in my case, obviously, but again, a very comfortable gun to shoot. I feel like it fits in the hand very, very well. Now, obviously, I feel like if you have very small hands, any 45 is not going to fit very comfortably. Again, though, I think this gun is an extremely shootable gun. The only thing I will say that some people might find a little bit, not difficult, but just different, is it does have European style mag release. Now, what that means is the mag release is right here on the trigger guard. And it is ambidextrous, so it is both sides. American style mag releases are usually right here or here for a thumb release. This one is meant to be used.
I'm going to flip this around real quick now that we've shown that it's safe. Yeah, you're normally right here because most people are right-handed, and that's where your thumb ends up, is right here on the side of the gun. And so that's, and the American mag release is right there on the pistol grip itself, not here on the trigger guard.
Here's one thing I will say, though, and this is where I personally love the European-style mag release. I have short sausage fingers. My fingers do not have as long of a reach as someone like yours does. I use my index finger to drop my mags, and I don't have to kick over. I don't have to do anything fancy. I can hold my firearm as if I'm going through a normal mag change, and it is just a quick click, slam, rack. I don't have to do anything. The gun stays in the position the whole time that it needs to be in.
You know, you're right. And for someone like me, my thumbs, obviously, my fingers are a little bit longer than yours, so I can hit that side, the American style mag release really, really well, really, really effectively. I can also hit this one really well, again, with my thumb instead of with my index finger. Personally, depends on the size of your hand, I think, as far as preference on the mag release. For me, my thumb sits right here in between both of them, so for me it's...
To stretch either way.
Either way doesn't really matter to me. I'm either kicking it forward a little bit or pulling it back a little bit. Doesn't really matter. So, depending on the size of your hand, you may love this European mag release. You may hate this European mag release. It's one of those things that until you actually start playing with them, you're going to love it or hate it. You'll never know.
I agree with that. The other cool thing I really like about this gun is it is a true ambidextrous gun. So whether you're southpaw or not, well, the safety is interchangeable. It's swappable. So it's not...
It's swappable, but it's not...
It's not like some guns where it's full ambi, both sides, right off the shelf. The thing is, it is very easy, though, to swap out. So if you are left-handed, don't let it deter you.
Oh, no. The mag release and the slide catcher full ambidextrous, I would give it that. The safety, I wouldn't call it full ambidextrous because you do have to swap it. And unless you're comfortable with the gun or even comfortable using your tools and hands, this isn't something that I can just like push it out and
there's
swap
a couple
it.
Things that have to be done to it. Yeah.
There are some things that have to be done to it. So, for someone like you or I who we've been around guns our times, we've tore them down to their basic components and rebuilt them from the ground up. Yeah, swapping it, no big deal. For if we were to hand this to someone as their first firearm, who somebody might be watching this thinking, "Oh, I want an HK45." If you're left-handed, swapping that safety around is gonna be
a pain in the somebody to have do it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. Where there are some other options out there that are truly ambidextrous, and everything is on both sides. It doesn't matter.
While we're on the subject of the safety functions of this firearm, though, I do want to bring something up. So, I do love that it has full safety. So if you flip the tab up, it locks the trigger 100%, period. If you slam the switch down, it actually kind of does what the SIG P229 does, and it's a full decocking mechanism as well. So it actually will drop the hammer into a double action position.
Right. I like that, and I dislike that as well. There's another gun that we have that we'll review later, and I prefer its safety to this one's safety.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but anyway,
we'll dig into that one later.
Right.
But yeah, no, the safety on this one, I do love that it completely locks the trigger, and it is big old lever right here that
you're not going to miss.
You're not going to miss it.
You're not going to fumble for it.
You're not going to fumble for it, and it's it switches very smoothly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Never had an issue with it.
Well, we never had an issue with this safety either. So another thing that I like about this gun is that it is a hammer fire gun instead of a striker fire gun, and that means it's actually got the hammer mechanism back here, like you see on the old Western revolvers, the thing that they're slapping with their hand instead of just a smooth back. I absolutely prefer the hammer fire over the striker fires on these.
I would definitely agree with that, and one of the reasons why I bought this gun is because I like having that versatility of being able to go to that heavier pull double action if I'm carrying it around out in the woods, just walking around with it, and I need to draw, and it's that pull through, and then it resets itself to single, where the hammer's in the back, full cocked position, and the trigger goes from, I believe the pull on this one in the double action stage is 8 pounds. When it goes back to single, I think it drops almost to like 2.5. It's very light and crisp.
And that's one of the main reasons I like the hammer fire over the striker fire. Striker fire, almost all of them have no external safety like this one does. And it's just a safety here on the trigger. And so you're carrying around in the chamber, you're always single action. That trigger is always that 2.5 pound pull. Granted, you got to kind of push the blade in on the trigger and pull it. But this one, you can drop it into double action mode and put the safety on. You still have to release the safety, and then you can fire without having to actually pull that hammer back.
Right.
But it does require that heavier pull. So if for whatever reason that safety gets knocked off, it's still going to take a lot of pressure to actually pull that trigger. You're far less likely, in my opinion, to have an accidental discharge with a hammer fire pistol versus a striker fire pistol.
I'll agree with that. And but some people really are into the striker fire. They're into that less safety features I have on the firearm, the better. Personally, I kind of lean the opposite way. I'd rather have one too many on the gun because at the end of the day, I use mine in the field. Mine are not show pieces. I prefer to have something where if I want the gun to discharge a round, I'm the person discharging the round out of it on purpose. That's why I really loved this gun, and it really drew me in, was part of the safety features. Now, excuse me. One of the other really cool things I like about this gun as well, when you think 45, you think 1911, you think the old school World War II handguns that only hold eight rounds.
7-8 rounds max, usually.
One thing that's really, really cool about this is it has a 10-round clip capacity. So it's 10 in the clip, 1 in the chamber, 11 rounds total. When I bought the gun, it came with, this is what it came with. This is what you see. It came with a nice hard plastic case. I still use it. This is what you get.
There's one thing that I will give the H&K, the HK45 auto versus, say, a 1911, is that you do have the 10-round magazine, 11 with 1 in the chamber, versus like a 1911 where it's 7 plus 1.
Right.
One thing, though, is that makes this gun very unconcealable. It is a full-frame gun. This is not one that you're going to tuck in your belt and carry around with you all day. It's heavy. It's bulky. It's going to get noticed.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're looking for a concealed weapon, this is definitely not the weapon that you want to go after. And when I bought this gun, concealability was not even a thought that crossed my mind personally. But I could see if somebody is after, hey, I want a gun that I can take out to the range or take out in the field and shoot, but I also want to be able to conceal it. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the gun. Don't do it. Now, if you want a gun that you can take out in the woods, maybe like a camp gun, a range gun, even, dare I say, a competition gun?
No.
I think this gun's extremely accurate.
It is extremely accurate, but I wouldn't use it as a competition gun. There are way better options for that. We'll touch on one of those on another episode as well.
That's fine.
But as far as a competition gun, nah. I mean, accurate, yes. Works well, yes. Speed, which is something you need on a competition gun. This is not
45.
It's not a fast gun.
It's a 45.
It is a 45, but that also, it's not competition grade. I don't think.
I think all HK weapons are competition grade because of what they put into them. But that's just my opinion. I respect your opinion on that. So anyway, let's move on to our next category. To summarize, I feel like this gun is an extremely shootable gun. I feel like it is an extremely fun gun to shoot. I love it to death. So let's answer the question that we have. What would you score this for shootability?
You know, as far as shootability goes, I would have to give this one a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And the only reason it scores a 4 out of 5 for me is for the shootability. One of the things we do look at is how well can a new shooter use it. Mm-hmm. And I think this one it does okay, but it doesn't do well.
Okay. Here's the funny thing. Since we're going with whole numbers, honestly, I would give it a 4.5. I'm going to go with your take on this, though, and give it a 4 because we're going with whole numbers here.
I mean, if you want to give it a half, go ahead and give it a half.
All right, I'm going to give it a 4.5 then, and here's why. Because if I was going to teach somebody how to shoot and how to shoot a more powerful handgun, and I had already observed them shooting, the two basic calibers that we talked about earlier on, I don't feel like I would have a problem sticking this in their hand. So that's why, to me, even though it doesn't quite score the 5 out of 5, it does score a strong 4 to 4.5.
I mean, I'll grant you that. And that's why it still gets a 4 for me. Because if this was one that I wouldn't teach a newbie at all with, or because that kind of leads into how well does it shoot, how well is it easy to handle, which all ties back into that shootability. I'd have given it like a 3.
I would agree with you on that, absolutely.
So, but this is not something that I'd be like, all right, hey, it's your first time out here. You're going to shoot this today.
No.
They're going to have to go through the 22, the 380, or the 9, and then work their way up to this guy.
Right.
So he's third, fourth time out. So it is a little hard for me to say, yeah, perfect 5 out of 5 on shootability on this one, just for that reason alone.
No, I get you. So let's go ahead. We'll move on to the next category. Justin, what is in our next category?
Next category is versatility.
Ooh,
what can it do? What can't it do?
That is always the age-old question. When I go buy a firearm and I am going to go spend however much money I have, what can this gun do and what can't it do? Because I want the most for my money.
You say you want the most for your money, but 45 auto? There are more versatile guns out there. There's more versatile rounds. You can't argue that.
Nope, I can't. But here's the thing, though. Let's look at it. Let's dive into some history here on the 45 ACP. It was
such a long history.
It has got a huge history. Because you're right. If we're talking ballistics, if we're talking price, if we're talking just all of the other calibers out there, yes, the 45 ACP by all means should get its butt handed to it. Again, though, it was designed by the American military for the Pacific warfare in World War II because we needed something that could hit.
It's further back
harder.
than that.
You're right, but I'm talking when it became huge.
When it became huge, that may or may not have been around World War II. We're not historians. Don't yell at us.
Correct us if we're wrong. If we're wrong, we're wrong.
Nicely. But the 45 ACP kind of came around at the end of the cowboy era when they had just the 45 caliber round in their Colts, the Colt Peacemaker.
I actually think the predecessor, and again, if someone knows this, correct me, I think it was the 1909 that actually was the first firearm to chamber a version of the 45 ACP. But anyway, let's talk about something. The average round leaves the barrel at approximately 850 FPS, feet per second. That's slow. So I'm not gonna dispute. But what the 45 ACP was designed for was knockdown power. It wasn't designed to be a high-performance round. It was meant to, when it impacted with the target, whatever it was, you just got shot. It hurt.
You're right. The 45 ACP was designed for stopping power.
Right.
It meant to leave that big temporary and big permanent cavity in the body to stop somebody. Mm-hmm. Now, and this is something you and I disagree on, would you take this into the woods and use it to defend your camp against, say, like a bear?
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably load, 250 grain hollow points in it. Yeah. I can tell you right now, he's gonna feel it.
He's going to feel it, but with how slow it is and how much stopping power it is, because that stopping power, you got to remember Newton's third law: for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. So as much stopping power as you're putting into that bullet's putting into the bear, that bear's putting back on that round, so it's not going to really go deep enough to damage the bear. That's where I think the 357 or the 44 mag beat this one out.
So the only reason why I'm not going to say that those are even in competition with the 45 ACP, because when I think of calibers like this, I think of 380, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP. Those all kind of encompass that mid-range category.
You're right. However, the 357 Magnum is, you have to include that in there.
You're right, but they don't make it in a semi-automatic
Yes,
pistol.
they do.
The SIG 357 is made, but not the 357 Magnum.
No. There is a 357 Magnum semi-automatic pistol.
Are you talking about the Desert Eagle attempt?
That's one of them.
Okay.
But there are 357 Magnum.
All right.
Semi-autos.
So I'll give you that one. Well, let's move forward a little bit here on that. So versatility. The other thing that I think this gun would be extremely good for is home defense, actually, because here's the thing. The gun, like you just said, has extreme stopping power, and yes, it suffers in the penetration department where a 9mm or a 40 Smith & Wesson might pick that up. But in a home defense situation, you want that because you don't want the bullet to go through you, your wife, and the wall and hit the neighbor next door.
You're right, and that's where I think the 45 ACP is at its best, is in a home defense weapon, because it has that stopping power, but it doesn't have the penetration power, and so it does. It hits whoever the target is. If somebody's breaking into your house, it hits the robber, and is likely to stay in the robber, or go into the wall behind him. It's not going to go through, like you said, the intruder, your wife, then the neighbor's dog.
Yeah.
Before it stops. Granted, I don't know how many rounds would actually get through all of that, but you're right.
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. So the 45 ACP, I think, as far as versatility goes, for me, the HK45 gets a 4.
Okay. And I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to give it a 5. And the only reason I'm giving it a 5 is because personal preference, I see its history and its proven longevity in all categories.
And, it has the proven history. It has longevity, but I still think it fails in some of our versatility categories that it could do better.
Okay. And
it's never going to, because the 45 ACP is such an established round. Nobody's going to change the 45 ACP. If you're thinking about it, stop. Don't.
Leave well enough alone.
It's a great round as it is for what it does. But it gets a 4 out of 5 for me on the versatility.
So let's get into probably the most, I wouldn't call it the most important topic, but I'd say it's definitely up there, because what is the one thing you think about either first or second when you go buy any firearm out there?
There are two things that I think about when I go out to buy a firearm. The first is it going to do what I want it to do?
Okay. It's always important.
The second is, how much is this going to hurt my wallet?
Absolutely. And that brings us to our final category, cost.
And with cost, we also got to bring in cost of ammo. Because that the cost of the gun may be great right up front. Mm-hmm. But if the ammo is ridiculous, that gun being cheap up front is going to do nothing in the long run.
Nope. So this one's out of my personal arsenal. I paid $830, give or take $10 is what I paid for it.
You paid $830 for this one, and when we talk about costs, we like to talk to each other about, at this point, knowing what you know, would you go spend the same amount you did on another one of these brand new if you needed to replace it in your arsenal?
Absolutely. Wouldn't even hesitate.
I looked it up before we started today. This thing's actually going for about $750 right now.
Okay, so you can get them a little bit cheaper now.
A little bit
makes
cheaper.
Sense.
Yeah, and that was on Cabela's website.
Interesting. Okay, Cabela's usually.
So yeah, Cabela's Bass Pro Shop. They're about $750 right now for one of these. Personally, I wouldn't spend the $750 on this one. In that price range, there's a couple other options that I would rather go for over the HK45. So, I got to think about that. But the other thing we want to talk about is on the used market.
Okay.
If you, assuming the gun was taken care of, cleaned properly, oiled properly, if you saw one of these on the used market, what is the max you would pay for one of these? Sight unseen. If you're on, say, Gunbroker. And you got to take on faith that this guy took care of the gun. How much are you going to trust this gun to still work, regardless of how he took care of it, and what would you pay for it?
About $750. And the only reason I say that is
really,
because,
you'd pay full price for a used gun.
Yeah, because of knowing what I actually paid for it. I mean, $700 to $750, and here's the only reason why, because H&K does such a good job with their handguns that let's say this. Let's say the gun showed up, the barrel's gone. I paid $700, the barrel's gone. Well, cool thing is, I've actually done this. I've called HK and said, hey, when my barrel goes out, what do I need to do? And they said, are you the original owner of the firearm? And I said, yes. If you call us within this, and don't quote me, I can't remember the time frame they told me, we'll just send you a new barrel. If not, we could probably get you one for like $150 brand new for that gun.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, yeah. And the only reason I say that, because if I'm going to go buy another one of these on the used market, it's because I already know what I'm after. I know what I'm getting into. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I'd be okay spending $700 to $750 for another one. Absolutely.
Okay, I mean, for the people at home, $750, same price as a brand new one for a gun that may or may not have problems.
In this price range, and this is just my opinion, I would just say just go buy a new one. I wouldn't even mess with used.
Okay, but there are people out there that $750 is a little too high. They got to go used.
I mean, if you can get one for around $6, grab it. Absolutely.
Okay, so $6. We're going to call $6 the max you'd pay for a used one. Because again, if you're going to go up into the $700 or $750 range, you're just going to buy a new one.
Absolutely.
So $6 is max you'd pay for. Is what I'd say you'd pay for a used one.
6 is I'd do 6.
Personally, I'd only pay about $450.
Well, and let's be honest though, you personally have some issues with the design and the ergonomics of the firearm, and not only that, you're not a big fan of the caliber.
Yep.
So I can see where you're like, okay, if this gun came available for around $450, you'd snag it in a heartbeat. I get that.
But and that's taking into account, sight unseen. If I bought it on Gunbroker, I would have to go out and buy a new. I might have to go buy a new barrel.
Might have to go buy new parts. I get that.
So that brings me up to that $600 mark, and so that's why it stops $450 for me.
That's fair.
Because there's a possibility I'm gonna have to drop another $150 into this gun, and at that point, I might as well have just bought the new one.
And that's true. I mean, but let's talk about something else here. This is where I think this gun's going to get knocked a few points. Ammo. 45 ACP. Normally I spend anywhere for plinking rounds $25 to $35 for a box of 50. Self-defense rounds, for a box of 25, I'm usually 40 to 50, depending on what brand I go with and what grain. It's not as budget friendly as like a 9mm.
But it's not as break the bank as a 44 mag.
Well, nothing's going to be as big a break the bank as a 44 mag. Well, okay, 44. Yeah, we'll get into that later. But anyway,
but
if you're looking for something that's cheap and abundant, probably not the caliber you want to be looking into. So for me,
I agree. As far as the price on the ammo, $25 for a cheap box, and when we say cheap box, usually that's the ammo that's really lightweight grain, so it's really not good for anything that you really want to use the gun for. It's got a low powder loadout, so it's slower than what you really want it to be.
I think the ones we were shooting today were flying out at 825, 830. because they were the Blazers. I do know that the Winchesters, though, we were shooting out of it later on in the video, were, I think they were 240 grain. They were a little bit higher grain. Those ones I think were closer to 900 FPS than they were the lower end.
But those were also more expensive.
I think it paid about $30 for those.
Yeah, those were a more expensive rock. But the cheap ammo, yeah, you can get it for $25 for a box of 50. So you're talking about 50 cents a round. But when you compare that to, say, a 9mm, where you can buy a good box of 50
$22
for $22.
Yeah, there's definitely a cost difference.
I mean, there's a cost difference. So if you're looking for something for just like plinking around, messing around with your friends, going to the range, honestly, the caliber itself falls down for me.
It's like I really, really want to give it a 4, but I'm going to give it a 3, and the only reason why I'm going to give it a 3 is this. I bought the gun knowing what the gun was. So for me personally, I did months of research on it. I knew exactly what I was getting into, and I wanted a 45. If you are somebody that is after a 45 and wants a 45, 5 out of 5 all day long. If you're just somebody that is like, hey, I'm thinking about a 45, I'm thinking about buying this gun, I give it a 3 because it's not a gun that goes out with us in the desert every single time. It maybe goes out of every 10 times we go out. It maybe goes out 4. Which I need to take it out more because I'm extremely good with this gun. I'm extremely accurate and I enjoy the crap out of this gun.
I will say this is one of the few guns that you can outshoot me with pistols.
And it is, and that's
we'll get into that one later on, folks. When it comes to pistols, he cannot hit the broadside of a barn except with this gun.
And the revolvers.
Well, the revolvers, you're better than you are with the other automatics, but still, this gun you outshoot me every single time, and it frustrates me to no end because I'm used to just blowing you away when it comes to the pistols.
And that's okay. It's just, I think what this gun is best for in all the categories is, first off, if you're watching this video, it's because you're already considering a 45. So you need to make the decision of, is this the caliber that I want to buy? And if it is the caliber that you want to buy and you're certain about it and you're okay with the cost of ammunition, you're okay with what the caliber is, yes, this gun gets a 5 out of 5. So I've got to split the score.
I don't know that you say you have to because we are talking about this gun. We're just kind of touching on the caliber as when it comes to cost, the long-term cost of this is going to be higher.
I'm going to split it on you because here's the thing. I'm giving it a 3. I'm giving it a 5. I'm going to split down the middle and go a happy 4.
Okay.
Because of those
I like
two
that.
Separate entities I'm bringing into why I feel like the cost is a negative and a positive thing. Because there are a lot of 1911s. Like, I don't know of any 1911s out there right now. Maybe then a couple of GI models made by like Springfield, Taurus, maybe Rock Island that are $650 to $750. Most of your 1911s now are 800 plus, easy now.
You're right. The 1911s, which if I was going for a 45, honestly, I'm looking into a 1911.
Or you're looking into a SIG. Knowing you're looking into a SIG. But that SIG, what is it, the 226 or is it the 229?
No, the SIG that I really, really want that I don't have yet is the SIG P226, and that is a 9.
So which one's the 45 version?
I don't remember which version of the SIGs is the 45.
But you can't touch those for under like $1,000 though.
No, you can't. So for the price of what it is, as much as I want to give it a worse score, I have to give it a 4.
See, and I was blown away when you said that it's now $750 because I think I did. I paid $820 or $830 for it when I bought it, but I bought it like how long ago did I buy that?
Oh, you've had this one for
3-4 years now.
I think it's been longer than that. I think it's been 4 or 5.
Okay, I've got to think about that. I mean, I remember what I paid for all my firearms. It's just sometimes it's like, okay, what year did I buy the firearm? Gets a little hazy.
Well, when you get into it like we do, the year you buy them kind of falls by the wayside.
Blurs.
It blurs.
So let's look at this. Let's kind of total
But-
everything up.
Yeah, totaling everything up.
So
What did your overall score for this gun?
an 18.5 out of 20. Wow. I kind of feel like that's generous, but at the end of the day, I'm giving it an honest review. Even though it's probably one of my most accurate guns that I own, and it's one of my favorite, I'm not going to pull any punches. I mean, there are some guns we're going to get into later where I go, pile of garbage, why did I buy this? Somebody beat me over the head with this thing.
There are a couple others that we'll get into that you just go head over heels for. You'd buy 6 more if your wife would let you.
Absolutely.
I absolutely know you would, and I know you'd take the heat for it. Luckily, you're smarter than that.
Sometimes.
You know, I give this thing an overall score of 17, and that feels really generous on this one for me.
Especially for a 45 ACP from you.
Well, I can't knock it because of its caliber too much. As much as I dislike the 45 ACP, the gun itself holds up really, really well.
It's a solid frame. It's a solid gun.
It's a solid gun. It does work, and it's a great example of its caliber, and it works every time. It's a very reliable gun, but. So I do have to give it the 17. It hurts me to say it because I don't like the 45 ACP.
But H&K did this gun right.
They did do this gun right. So this gun does get that full 17. I hate to say it, but it gets it. It earned it.
All right.
It earned it.
So overall, if I was to recommend this firearm to somebody, if someone was to ask me, hey, Chris, I'm going to go buy a 45 ACP today, would you recommend that I go buy the HK? I would say yes, absolutely. How about you?
You know, I would, if they tell me they have to get a 45 ACP, I would steer them towards the HK45. But my first question would be, have you done enough research on the caliber? Just because that's my thoughts on the caliber itself. But it is a wonderful gun. And overall, I hate H&K for doing it well, but they did it well.
They did it very well. Overall, I feel like a very, very well done pistol, and it be a great addition to anybody's collection, I feel like.
You know, it would be a great addition to anybody's collection. Like I said, I said at the beginning, it is the HK USP's bigger brother. And it honestly doesn't look too much different than the HK USP. The USP has a little bit shorter barrel because it's meant for, again,
combat
military
uses, and
combat
it's
use, a little more
boxy.
compact. But if you like the HK USP in video games, here's the real life version of it that you will actually thoroughly enjoy. Any other final thoughts on this one, Chris?
No, I think, Justin, where are we going next?
So we're going to take a quick break, folks. We're going to put the gun away, lock it all up. And then we're going to come back and review some alcohols. So be sure to join us for that in just a few minutes. We'll see you soon.
See ya.